Some of you have wanted to see it, and here it is. Yeah, she came home and said, "Look what I got for you, Dad." No, she didn't really say that. But here she is, Jessica Romero.
Hi, how are you all doing? Good. My name is Jessica, and thank you for having me here today. Can I please get a show of hands of how many veterans we have with us here today? Or maybe family members even.
Raise your hand, Dawn.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for your service. As many of you know, my dad and my family, they're really excited about what I do. I work for the Oakland Raiders. I'm entering my 7th season as a video producer. It's a pretty exciting job, especially if you like football. So our television studio actually grew into a digital media studio. We now have grown to where we produce content not only for TV, but for digital media, broadcast, social media, and for our website. So our audience is global. One of my favorite features I've had the chance to work on is this feature I'm going to give you guys a little sneak preview of today. It involves a Marine. So his family approached the Raiders organization around October about Taj, and he was deployed overseas, and he was planning on attending the Raiders-Chargers game in San Diego in October when he came back. He unfortunately did not make it home. So instead, the team decided to honor Taj at a home game in December, and we also decided to produce a feature that told his story because we decided it was certainly a story worth telling. This feature will go live on our website on Monday, but like I said, you guys get the sneak preview. You're among the first to see it. So with that, I guess we'll start it.
Taj is a very outgoing, free spirit. Raider fan from birth, as best a Raider fan as they come. Every time he was in town, I would go over to the Sareen family house and we would watch football, and the Raiders would be on.
He said, I bleed silver and black, so one of our goals was to go to the Raiders game together.
Deep ball going for Cooper. It's a jump ball. He pulls it down.
4 days before the 2015 Raiders won their Week 7 matchup in San Diego, Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 232, known as the Red Devils, was preparing to return to California after a 6-month mission against ISIS in the Middle East.
It was a cold, rainy day, and we briefed up the mission, we briefed the weather considerations that we had.
Before boarding his jet, lifelong Raiders fan and U.S. Marine Corps pilot Major Taj "Cabby" Sareen caught up with his fellow pilot.
We're all carrying all of our gear. My hands are full, and he runs up and he tries to hand me something. And he's like, "Oh, you left this in your desk on deployment." I look over, and it was this stupid, rope bracelet that I had. And I purposely left it in the desk because I didn't want it. I think about that now and how much that thing that I didn't want means to me, because it was, I would say that was an hour before we lost him, if that happened.
We are following breaking news. An FA-18 Hornet based out of Miramar Air Station crashes in England.
Over 5,000 miles away, the Sareen household was shaken by reports of a crash.
At around 6 a.m. that morning, my mom had woken up early, like usual, and I guess she had heard about the crash on the news. My dad insisted that, we go on our day, just everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be okay. So it was a very painful waiting game. Then around 3 o'clock, we were just hanging out in the kitchen, and I saw 3 hats. In their uniform, there were these hats, these green hats. And I saw them just coming above our hedge, and I remember saying, oh my God, it's Tosh.
As a mother, I just can't get a grip of it, and we live with it for the rest of our lives. But I'm very fortunate to have been his mother, and thankful for the 34 years.
Taj's final act of bravery has many calling him a hero. He reportedly delayed ejecting from his malfunctioning FA-18C Hornet in order to avoid crashing into homes.
He died like a hero. He died saved lives. He turned out to be just a marvelous human being.
The energy that man had when he walked into the room, he literally lifted the mood when he came in, you know, just always a smile on his face, laughing, talking.
It was definitely the lifeblood of the squadron, always keeping everybody loose and joking around.
I know that you're here with us today. In spirit.
We all paid tribute to him at his memorial service. Over 1,000 people showed up, and it was great to be surrounded by the people he loved. He was a great person.
Taj lives on through his 2-year-old daughter, Jade, and the inspiration he gave others to follow their dreams.
He was a role model. He was the true American Top Gun fighter pilot that we all wanted to be as kids.
He achieved everything that he had vision of himself. I think as a 9-10-year-old boy, he envisioned himself as a fighter jet pilot. And he did it.
The young pilot, who saw multiple deployments abroad, will also be remembered for his love of football.
Every time I came home, our whole Sunday was dedicated to watching football, dedicated to watching the Raiders.
Since Taj's passing, the Sareens have developed a special bond with the Raiders organization.
Hello.
Hi, Phoebe. Good to see you.
During a visit to the team's headquarters in Alameda, they got a behind-the-scenes look at the silver and black, an experience Taj would have cherished.
Yeah, everything is so big. Somewhere Taj is watching him saying, you know, you lucky mom, you're doing what I should have done.
A young John Madden. What a man. That was going through my mind. Taj would have loved this tour. He would have really enjoyed it.
Left PJ, 0-3. 1, 2, 3. Left PJ.
Smith looks, pressured, he gets sacked! Back on the 5-yard line, Khalil Mack got him!
At one of the final home games in 2015, the Raiders joined forces with Taj's family, friends, and squadron to celebrate the life of a hero.
There was probably 30 people in the suite, as well as the pilots did the flyover. They were able to make it back to the field as well. He definitely would have loved to have been there, and I know that he had always wanted to do a flyover for one time.
He's definitely a true American that deserves the recognition that he got.
Major Sareen was a decorated member of the U.S. Marine Corps and was known for his infectious smile, his passion for cars, and his love for the Oakland Raiders.
I think he would have been absolutely thrilled. It would have been a moment, I think, he could have never imagined that.
I think he was like looking down and he would have been just so thrilled.
It was a perfect day. I mean, the Raiders just did an amazing job of every single detail. I know the Sareens and myself and his good friends felt like family.
Even though Taj is gone, he's left a huge family behind us. Family of the Raider organization. And all his friends. Marvelous. Absolutely marvelous.
But if any of you have questions, I don't know if you do. If you do, you can ask them. Or,
Is there any way that last screen on because I'm really, really good friends with a lot of.
Oh, yeah.
Romero and John
That's
Sure, we can do that right after if you want to stay.
Yeah, I want to show.
Okay, we can do that right after. So,
I'm sure they know.
All right, thanks, guys.
I was out. Oh gosh.
at this time,
Hey, JR.
that was pretty awesome, right?
It looks pretty expensive.
It kind of does look expensive. We'll talk about that one later. Right now, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Officer Stephen Shodin. He was raised in Fremont, California, graduated from Fremont Christian High School in 1986. In 1985, he joined the Army Reserves. While still in high school, he was trained as a communication and electronics specialist. He later joined the active Army as an infantryman and was assigned to the Old Guard at Fort Myer, Virginia. While in the Old Guard, Stephen was a member of the full honor casket team conducting funerals in Arlington National Cemetery. He later became a member of the United States Army Drill Team and followed up by becoming a sentinel and assistant relief commander at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Stephen finished his Army and Army Reserve career at Camp Parks, completing over 20 years combined and obtained the rank of SFC Sergeant First Class. He was a police officer for San Leandro PD from 1998 to 2006. And in 2006, he became one of our very own Livermore's finest police officer, Stephen Shodin.
Thank you. By show of hand, how many people have been to Arlington National Cemetery before? Oh, this is going to be easy then. All right. So just to make sure we understand everything, so what you see right here at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is there's only one tomb of the unknown soldier, and that would be this right here. This is the World War I unknown. 11 November 1921, the remains for the World War I unknown was placed in Arlington National Cemetery. This is 79 tons of marble. This is actually the back where it says, "Here rests in honor, glory, and an American soldier known but to God." This is the back. The front, you'll see in a minute. Down on the ground, the crypts to the left and the right are the World War II and the Korean unknown soldier. And in the center was the Vietnam unknown remains. Now, this is the 50th year anniversary of Vietnam. 13 May 1998. After a lot of studies and a lot of pressure from some different families, they exhumed the remains from the Vietnam unknown. They took it to the science facilities and they determined through family DNAs that it was the remains of, on 28 June 1998, they announced there was the remains of Air Force pilot Michael J. Blassie, and he was taken back to Jefferson Barracks Cemetery in St. Louis, Missouri, where his family's at. They did not replace the remains with any other unknown Vietnam remains. There's a quote here that is dedicated to all the service members from Vietnam. But due to the DNA and the technology that we have and the recent family members and the history that we have, we feel that we should be able to eventually identify everybody else, and we don't want to have anybody else placed there and then end up having to again exhume them again and bring up some bad memories for some people. We have a lot of individuals that come here, and it's a healing process for a lot of veterans when they come here. They feel they visited a buddy that never came home, service member. So it was very difficult for the Department of Defense to make the decision, but Secretary Cohen said that we owed it to that one family that did believe it was their family member. So Michael J. Blassie is back in St. Louis with his family where he belongs. So it was the entire tomb, even though the unknowns were placed there 11 November 1921, the structure itself, Thomas Hudson Jones and Lorimer Rich, the sculptor and the architect, worked together. And on 29 August 1931, they started the build, and it was completed 9 April 1932. You'll see here, you'll see right here, there's 6 wreaths. The wreaths are inverted. They're inverted to represent mourning. There's 3 on the south side right here. On the north side, there's 3 more. Those 6 wreaths actually represent the 6 major battle campaigns of World War I. This is actually on the front of the tomb: peace, victory, and valor. Peace holding a dove, victory holding a palm branch, valor holding a sword. It represents that peace was obtained by victory through valor of the service members. This is prior to 30 May 1958, before the double internment of both the Korean and World War II unknown was placed. This is the full structure. There is actually a sentinel. He's just off to the side at the time. The only thing that was roped off for all of those who've been there right now is just the tomb itself. The sentinel did walk right here on the mat, and people could walk around and or right up to it, although the sentinel does not communicate or talk with the public while they're there. The history of the Sentinels: the first guard was posted 17 November 1925. It was not a military guard. What happened was 16 November 1925, a veteran was visiting Arlington Cemetery and was up there at the unknowns. For all of those who have been there, it's a really nice view from the steps and from where you can see the Jefferson Memorial, part of the Potomac, part of the Pentagon. So a lot of people were up there visiting their loved one that is buried there, but they were also up there near the unknown soldier, and this veteran saw that people were leaning on the tomb, sitting on the tomb, because at the time it was not the full 79-ton tomb that it was ground level. So they were actually sitting on it. This outraged that veteran. He took a crisp walk across the Potomac River, over the bridge, over to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and he pounded on the front door, because you could do that back then. And he asked to speak to the president right then and there. The following day, 17 November 1925, a guard was posted. Those guards consisted of veterans, volunteers from that area. On 25 March 1926, we established the military guards. The military guards consisted of the cavalry unit, the military police unit, and the field artillery units that are stationed in the area near Fort Myer, near Arlington. The first 24-hour guard was posted on midnight, 2 July 1937. So it has been guarded 24 hours a day since 1937. The Old Guard is the 3rd U.S. Infantry, the Army ceremonial unit and escort to the President. We are the unit that conducts the Army funerals in Arlington National Cemetery. When you see the ceremonies in the White House and the Pentagon, individuals in the Army dress blue uniforms all come from the Old Guard. All the other services have their designated Honor Guard unit. The Marines are at 8th and I, the Navy Yard, the Bowling Air Force Base for the Air Force. So they are the specific services Honor Guard unit that you'll see when you see the White House and the Pentagon jobs. However, Arlington National Cemetery is run by the Department of the Army, and right there at Fort Myer, adjacent to Arlington National Cemetery, is the Old Guard, and we took over the right on 6 April 1948 when the Old Guard was reactivated, the oldest active infantry unit, took over the right to guard the unknowns, and we've been guarding it since. When there is enough people, when we have enough soldiers, and we're up to strength, there's 3 reliefs. The reliefs are broken down by height: first, second, and third relief, first being the tallest, third being the shortest. That's so during the guard change, all 3 of them, but the relief commander and the sentinel coming off the mat and going on the mat are all look as uniform as possible. So I was the shortest. First relief, and I was literally the shortest. If people came down to try out at the tomb, they'd yell at me coming up to the front. And if they were shorter than me, we sent them packing. I was actually the minimum the Old Guard in the infantry, you need to be 5'10" or above in order to come there. First relief was, at one time, the minimum height for the first relief was about 6'3". Wow. There were 6'3" to 6'6", very tall individuals. This is third relief, about 1993. I'm the second from the left. At the time, I went down there as a corporal, but I earned my sergeant stripes while I was down there, and I was assistant relief commander. And we're all badge holders. Everybody that you see there has already earned their Tomb Guard identification badge. So this is the Tomb Guard identification badge. It's 2 inches by 1/7/8 inch sterling silver. As you can see, the front of it is the Roman figures and the tomb itself. The tomb itself in Arlington does not say Honor Guard at the bottom. That was placed on the badge for the badge alone. And then the wreath that's inverted around the tomb represents the 6 wreaths from the World War I unknown. First badge was awarded 7 February 1958. That's when the Army established it. It was awarded to Master Sergeant William E. Daniel, along with 4 other Sentinels. The training period, once you come from the old guard, you've already been ceremonially qualified. You've either been on a firing party, full honor casket team, or a marching platoon, and then you can eventually try out for some of the specialty units, one being the Army drill team, Sentinel at the Tomb of the Unknown, Salute Battery, and the caisson platoon with the horses. The training period can last up to 9 months long. You have to memorize a lot of knowledge, your uniform, as far as pressing your uniform, shining the brass, your 21 seconds, counting the 21 seconds, we'll go over that. And also your weapon manual has to continue to improve for those 9 months until you meet the final training stage. For those of you, how many here have seen something about Sentinels cannot swear or drink the rest of their life? Okay, that's false. We do live by a serious code of conduct. We do take our job and our position very serious. However, I like my rum and coke every now and then. And if I drop a 10-pound hammer on my toe, I'm probably going to say a word or two my kids shouldn't hear. It happens. We're human. However, we do have a very high standard with the mission that we keep and the position that we hold. We take it very serious. Even when we leave the tomb somewhere else in the Army, or even when we get out, we take it very serious. The polo shirt I'm wearing that says Tomb of the Unknown Soldier on it, I would not be wearing it if I wasn't cleanly shaven, my hair wasn't cut, if I was wearing ripped, torn up jeans, something like that. I wouldn't do that because I don't want to misrepresent the rest of the Sentinels that came before me and the mission that we took on years ago, no matter what year it is. We've had individuals that have gone to another duty station in the Army, and they've tripped up a little bit, and they actually have had their permanent orders and their Tomb Guard identification badge taken away. As of May 2016, just last week, Sergeant Hanks is badge number 643. So although there has been guards that have taken on our duty prior to 1958, the badge was established, and that's made it a little easier for us to keep track. So 643, I'm numbered 386 on the permanent badge report. The Sentinel's Creed, my dedication to this sacred duty is total and wholehearted. In the responsibility bestowed on me, never will I falter. Through the years of diligence and praise and the discomfort of the elements, I walk my tour in humble reverence to the best of my ability. It is he who commands the respect I protect, his bravery that made us so proud. Surrounded by well-meaning crowd by day, alone in the thoughtful peace of night, this soldier will in honor and glory rest under my eternal vigilance. Simon 71. Sentinel's Creed is the staple of what we do. If you count 6 lines down, and you see my standard will remain perfection. Line 6 is kind of like a buzz phrase that we use when we, if someone starts to trip up, or someone starts to lower their standards and slack off a little bit, we'll just remind them, hey, line 6. And it's something that, that they need to remember. This is the first thing that you memorize when you come down, when you train, and this is the last thing you'll probably ever, forget about the unknowns is the Sentinel's Creed. This is something that I could walk down the Tomb Guard quarters tomorrow, and that's going to be the first thing they'll probably, have me pop off, is that the current Sentinels will, ask me to, granted I have seniority over them, but they'll say, you still remember the Sentinel's Creed? Absolutely. Then I'll tell them to brace and make them go to the position of attention. It's a little seniority thing we have going on. But again, this is the first thing that we memorize, and the last, it's just a staple of what we do. Even when you leave the tomb somewhere else in the Army or somewhere else, that you move on to law enforcement officer to work, do anything else, we try and use this as a guideline of our conduct and what we do. So again, we memorize a lot of poems that are in the cemetery on different memorials. A lot of historical facts of both the Old Guard, Arlington National Cemetery, the Army, and then the history of the Sentinel and all 4 unknowns and the ceremonies in which they were selected and placed into Arlington. There's also about 300, there's over 300,000 right now, but about 300 different specific memorials or individuals buried in Arlington. We need to know where they're buried and a little bit about that person. Audie Murphy, Section 46, most decorated soldier, World War II. The Red Badge of Courage and Helen Back are some of his more famous movies. He's from Texas. He died in a plane crash in the Shenandoah Mountains in Virginia. And I should be able to run to his gravesite and literally get an engraving from his gravesite and run back. So I know exactly physically where he's at. Headstone to the left is Staff Sergeant Adam Dickmeyer. He's badge 528. He was a former Sentinel at Tomb of the Unknowns. He died on October 28, 2010 in Afghanistan while he was stationed with 101st Airborne. We also have approximately 14 other Sentinels from the Unknowns that are buried in Arlington. So the uniform standards. Every company in the old guard has 3 industrial presses in the basements, and then we have 2 down at the tomb guard quarters. We press our pants, the blouses, we sew the seam on the blouses. When we get the blouses, our dress blue tops, we rip the liners out, we cut everything out, we sew everything, we customize it to fit us just the way it's supposed to, and then whoops, sorry about that. And then we press it. We press our white shirts, we press our overcoats. These are basic, for those who have been in the military, the old black shoes. These are our basic Army issue spits, but then we take them across the street to a cobbler shop and they build up the soles with Vibram sole. They bring it up a lot thicker, and then they put steel on the bottom. We have horseshoes on the back, horseshoe steel on the back, toes on the taps on the front, and then steel on the inside for when we stop at the end and come to a stop with our heel clicks. Now this here is not edge dressing. As you can see, this is all spit shine, kiwi, and water. We do the same to the sides. We take a sander and we actually sand the sides, and we build that up just as much as we do the toe of the shoe. We shine the entire thing. The brass we have to shine, we get a bench grinder from a Black & Decker bench grinder in cotton flannel pads and rouge, jeweler's rouge, and we strip all the metals down, the front and the backs, collar brass, everything, and then everything has to be precise. And that's what we're doing here is they're measuring it. And for the new guys while they're training, you get this stuff done every morning. First thing in the morning, you're standing with your dress blues, your shoes, and your hat, and you get called into the inspection corner, you write down all your gigs, and hopefully you make a correction the next day. Just before we go out the door for the guard change, every time we have someone else checking us. They help us put our belt on. They tape us off, make sure we have no lint, no extra strings. That's what he's doing with the lighter. He's getting the little fuzz off the infantry cord. He's making sure there's no more fuzz on there and gets him out the door. We have mirrors all around the quarters so we can double check ourselves, triple check ourselves before we walk out that door and stand in the inspection block. My standard will remain perfection. So again, the last thing you want to do, say if you're badged, like myself, I was badged 386. I had 385 people before me that apparently made it, and it showed that it was possible, and those are the last people I want to disrespect and disappoint. Okay, so we have 2 seasons. We've referred to them as the summer and the winter seasons. During the summer seasons, it's April to September. The guard is changed every 30 minutes from 8 in the morning when the cemetery opens until 7 p.m. Then during the winter time, from October to March, we change the guard every hour on the hour. During the summertime, it does a couple things for us. First of all, the uniforms that you see, these nice blue uniforms, that's 100% wool. So anybody who's been to Washington, D.C. May, June, July, and August know where I'm going with this. It gets very hot. We do hydrate a lot. We make sure that we're good to go when we go outside, but we don't want to keep us out there very long. It also, as you can see during the guard change in 30 minutes, the crowd gets very, very large where the entire steps and all the way around part of the amphitheater. So it also helps us as a crowd control. It keeps the crowd moving between the 2 guard changes. So every 30 minutes we have a new guard change, and it moves the people along, and it also gets the sentinel downstairs so it doesn't hydrate. So this is myself changing the guard during the weapons inspection and Specialist Lanier. Alfred actually came back 2 other times. He came back as a relief commander, and then he came back as a sergeant of the guard. During the night hours, once the cemetery closes, it becomes a military restricted area. Then we abide by 22-5. At the time was FM 22-5, which is guard duty. And we do have a sentinel up there. However, we are in fatigues during that time. But if you're still in training or you're a newer member, we put you up in fatigues, but we put you up in your spit shine shoes so you can go up there and practice. Sometimes we even put them up in their dress blues because we don't want them to just dust it off, tape it off, and bring it the next day saying that, yeah, I worked on my uniform all night last night, then bring it back. So we'll make sure that we get the uniform dirty, wrinkled, and And so they have to take it all the way apart again, shine it, press it, and get it back to where it needs to be. But we are up there 2 hours at a time until the next morning when we're relieved by the following relief. We are there for it's a 25-hour workday. So we'll change the guard throughout the day, and then we'll be there throughout the night, during the night hours. 21 steps, 21 seconds. I'm standing at the south end of the mat right now, counting my 21 seconds before I face back north on the mat. I'll change shoulders. I'll put the weapon to my left shoulder now. The weapon is always to the outside shoulder between the crowd and the tomb to represent that you're guarding the unknowns. So right now I'm counting the 21 seconds, and I'll face, and then once I'm done with those 21 seconds, I'll step off 21 seconds up the 63-foot rubber mat. That's actually one of my favorite pictures. This was taken early in the morning, right after the rain. Nobody else is in the cemetery. It was just myself and the unknowns. It's a nice, quiet, serene moment. And it doesn't show my face, which I like because it's not identifying me. It's just identifying a sentinel guarding the unknowns. And it just moments like this are very special to us. And this is something that just it meant a lot to us. And I apologize for some of the quality of these pictures. These are before digital cameras. So this is a few years ago. Now, I was a corporal at this time and then later a sergeant, but you notice right here, I do not have any rank on my sleeve. Okay? So whether you come down as a specialist, corporal, sergeant, staff sergeant, if you go up top as a sentinel, you're not going to wear anything on your sleeve. We do not know the rank of the unknown soldiers, the 4 service members, so we don't want to outrank them. Also, it's a matter of humility. We're not up there as a sergeant. We're not up there as a staff sergeant. We're up there as a sentinel. It's simply a duty position. We're there to guard the unknowns. We're not there for our personal recognition. So that is why you'll see the sentinels will wear a blouse without rank. So here I am. This is my sergeant stripes. So this is the other blouse that I have with the stripes on because I'm changing the guard. So those of us that had rank were lucky enough to have to press and prep 2 blouses for every work day. But it was a privilege. I didn't mind it at all. But so here it is where we have rank on our uniform and we change the guard. Most of us still earn our badge as a sentinel. So we have a written test, and then we have a performance test. The performance test is outside. So if you earn your badge as a sentinel, your test is walking. Now the written test is combined of all the poems and the knowledge and everything that we were told, had to memorize for the last 6-7 months. What happens when they feel you're ready to take the test? They run you through a whole bunch of traditions. And then you end up with the actual test. The test is over 300 questions long, along with additional individuals that are buried in the cemetery. They give you that test. You have that test for 7 days. It's your responsibility to memorize it. Most of this stuff is stuff you already know. However, it's now written in question-answer form and it's typed out. At the end of that time, 7 days, they give you the test. You need to score on the written test. You need to score. When I was there, you need to score 98.5% or higher to pass. How they break that down is spelling, punctuations of rank, commas, just anything that can be misspelled or written incorrectly than what it is on the test that they gave you. You could get the name right, but the section that they're buried in the cemetery wrong. It's a half a point, quarter point to 4 point. I was happy to say that I scored 100% on my test, so I was I got teased a little bit. I came in on my off day. I was wearing, and don't ask me why, apparently it was a fashion thing back then, but pressed shorts, a long sleeve shirt and a tie. I was from California. But I came there and they said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm dressed for success. Let's take this test." So we knocked it out, and it was a good day. It was a good day. So we have relief commanders, assistant relief commanders for all 3 reliefs. So sergeants or staff sergeants, and then we have a sergeant first class who is the sergeant of the guard, and he's in charge of all 3 reliefs. Right now, we've been talking to the guys. Right now, they're actually very short personnel, so they're working 2 reliefs, which means they're working every other day. 24-hour shifts, on, off, on, off. because they just don't have enough individuals for whatever unknown reason that want to come down and try out and be a sentinel with the unknowns. It is a lot of work, it is a lot of dedication, and that may be half the reason. There's a lot of questions, and people may be a little scared of the challenge, unfortunately. But so right now, the individuals, if you go there in the next couple months, the individuals down there are working incredibly hard, working 24 on, 24 off. The rain, the sleet, the snow, it doesn't matter. Again, we've been there 24 hours a day since 1937. You'll see the sentinel walking right now is in an overcoat. So when we wear the dress blue uniform, the summer outfit, the 100% wool summer outfit, we wear that until it's 40 degrees. Once it gets below 40 degrees, we take off the blouse and we put on, sorry about that. Whoops. Did I press the button you said not to press?
Yeah.
He said I'd get kicked out if I pressed that. So this is the overcoat. We'll put on the overcoat with a scarf. So we'll take off the shirt and the tie and the blouse, and we'll put on a long sleeve thermal shirt or long sleeve shirt under the overcoat with the scarf, but we'll still wear the white cotton gloves and the service cap. Once it gets to 32 degrees below or lower, we'll then take off the service cap and we'll put on the trooper cap and then the black gloves, and the black gloves are lined with fur, they're a little bit warmer. However, we still need to keep this lean, we still need to keep the lean look. So the snivel gear we get to wear under that is very thin, very little, and back then we didn't have the the high-speed polypropylene stuff that they do have now, so it was very tough. We ended up wearing, like I said, a long sleeve t-shirt, maybe, and some very thin thermal underwear, and then the thin black dress socks, because your feet still have to fit in those shoes, so it was very difficult to stay dressed in that. Here rests in honor, glory, an American soldier known but to God. Now this is a really quick presentation. I do give a presentation at the library last year during Veterans Day. Something that we're going to have coming up right now is one of the former Sentinels from the 2004-2005 era. He produced a documentary. It's called The Unknowns. You can find it. It's bouncing around the internet right now. But I just requested a showing of The Unknowns at the Livermore Theater here for July 12th at 7:30 p.m. It's something that's going to be on gather.com. I'll end up getting JR the website in order to purchase your tickets. Tickets have to be purchased online only, the way they push these smaller documentaries. But it'll explain a lot more what the Sentinels go through and what we do. And I have longer presentations that I give where I can get a lot more in depth about the unknowns and the ceremonies and the homes and the cemetery, and I give you a lot more information. I understand you guys keep a tight schedule right now. Are we there? Okay.
Can I have a question?
Yes, sir.
How often do you serve that 24-hour shift, and how many times on guard during that 24-hour shift?
So again, we have three reliefs, and then so depending on how many people you have will determine, and how many qualified badge holders, people that can go up top. I might have 5 people, but if I only have 2 badge holders, they're going to work during the summertime. There's 24 guard changes. They'll each do 12 30-minute shifts back and forth, and then the new trainees will be doing the night hours at night. Yes, sir.
What do you do if you have a little too much lunch for a few weeks and get a little extra weight?
You don't. In the Army, you run. And if you don't, a corporal or a sergeant like myself will do PT with you in the morning, then we'll do PT in the end of the day.
I got time for one more?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Do you keep bullets in your gun, and if anyone ever had to use force to guard the kids?
On the first question, I don't know. Do we? So in the early '80s, we had a disgruntled government employee who made his way through the cemetery. It's actually easy to get through the cemetery when it's closed. You can walk in between the gates or right between the bushes. He came up to the unknowns early in the morning. Fortunately, not just the Sentinel was on post, but there's Army wreath laying ceremonies. Different services have the marching platoons and the officers up there. So they were there early in the morning before the cemetery opened, rehearsing for the ceremony. And he came out. He wielded a .45 caliber gun. He was yelling and screaming. He was drunk, not happy about something. He was a government employee. I don't know. So he got caught off guard. The lieutenant came up from behind. He utilized his saber to knock the .45 out of his hand, and the rest of the soldiers got on top of him and subdued him. Called the military police from Fort Myers, and they took care of him.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.